Welcome to W. Kerr Scott Dam and Reservoir in the beautiful Yadkin River Valley. The purpose of this DVD is to provide guidance and information specific to the management of the shoreline at W. Kerr Scott Reservoir. In preparing the shoreline management plan, consideration was given to limiting the number and locations of private floating docks in such a manner that these facilities would not be distracting, unreasonably harmful to the environment, or limit the use of the shoreline by the general public. As an aid to obtaining this objective, a system for classifying the shoreline was developed. The shoreline is divided into 4 areas. They are public recreation, protected, prohibited access, and limited development, and are delineated with 4x4 posts on the shoreline. Permits for private docks are only issued in limited development areas. The types of permits issued in limited development areas on public lands are generally for floating docks, improved walkways, underbrushing, erosion control, and footpaths. Boat docks must be located 100 feet from any other dock on land and 50 feet from across the water. Docks should be anchored properly using guidance in the shoreline management plan. Poles and/or cables are allowed. Bulkheads and retaining walls are no longer allowed. Other requirements, including size and construction materials, are addressed in detail in the plan. Underbrushing of small vegetation is allowed for a total of 50 feet. This area is normally 25 feet on either side of the boat dock. Within the approved area, trees and shrubs smaller than 3 inches at the base may be removed. However, some type of vegetation must be growing every 15 feet. Tree limbs smaller than 1 inch in diameter may be trimmed up to a height of 10 feet within the underbrushing area. Some species, such as hollies and dogwoods, are protected and cannot be removed regardless of size. Only native species may be planted on government property. For a list of approved species, refer to the Shoreline Management Plan. Most violations are related to underbrushing or the cutting of trees on public lands. If at any time you are unsure of the regulations, refer to the Shoreline Management Plan or call the Shoreline Ranger. The shoreline areas of W. Kerr Scott Reservoir are subject to extreme erosion. Upon approval of a submitted plan, the operation manager will issue a cost-free permit which allows the adjacent landowner to place riprap along the shoreline. The property line between private and public lands is marked with orange paint on trees. There are 55 miles of shoreline at W. Kerr Scott Reservoir. Any activity below the orange line requires a permit. Blue paint on trees delineates the flowage easement area. The government purchased the rights to flood back to this easement, which is at elevation 1,080 feet. Although this property is privately owned, there are many regulations regarding its use. For example, it is a violation to grade land, build roads, structures for human habitation, or enclosed sheds. It is allowable to place open-sided structures, gazebos, and septic repair lines with permission from the Corps of Engineers in the form of a letter of consent. Any activities other than public recreational activities or pedestrian access which are not covered by a shoreline use permit may be considered an encroachment on public property. Unauthorized activities are considered violations of the rules and regulations contained in Title 36, Chapter 3, Part 327, Code of Federal Regulations, which may result in revocation of a permit. As a reminder, it's always better to check with the Shoreline Ranger to make sure you are in compliance with the Shoreline Management Plan. Thank you for your time and enjoy your property adjacent to W. Kerr Scott Dam and Reservoir.